Does anybody else have a pocket speech? You will have approximately 10 minutes to prepare a pocket speech while Luke gives his 10 to 12 minute presentation. Just telling you.
I can always do a speech if we have time for it, or otherwise I can do an extended topic.
Yeah, let's just do an extended table topics tonight, if David does not show up. I like that idea. We always seem to want to do just one more table topic. So.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll introduce our Toastmaster this evening. Our Toastmaster has been a member of our club for approximately a year and a little. He served as our treasurer. I can't remember exactly when he started because he started before me, but not much. He is currently serving as our treasurer. He's moved forward on his competent communicator, but the real thing that's been neat about having our Toastmasters part of the club is he brings a level of professionalism to everything he does because his job requires him to always be professional because he works at Carpe Diem Engineers as a project manager. Our Toastmaster this evening is Justin Dish.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I'll begin with a review of the agenda here. So we have planned for this evening. Luke Green is going to talk about Hurricane Irma and Mariah. David Monroe may join us a little later to provide his speech. If not, we'll do an extended table topic session that Lawrence is going to lead. Thomas is going to be our general evaluator. And Thomas, why don't you explain that role for our guests?
So as the general evaluator, I will be evaluating the meeting as a whole. Did we start on time? Were the speeches done in a timely manner and meeting their objectives? I also lead the evaluation team, which includes our evaluators of each speech, the grammarian, and the timer. So I'll be leading, when we go through the evaluation portion of the evening, I'll be leading that discussion.
Great. And Ren is set up as our first evaluator for David's speech, and he should arrive. Cody is going to be evaluator for Luke Green's speech. Yu Wang is our timer. Would you like to explain that role for us, Yu?
As timer, help speaker control their time. For speech is depending on the. If it's like 5 to 7, so green is 5 minutes, yellow is 6 minutes, red is 7 minutes. The table topics is green for the 1 minute, yellow is 1:30, red is 2 minutes. For the evaluator, green is 2 minutes, yellow is 2:30, and red is 3 minutes.
Okay.
So pay attention about the color.
Thank you. And John is our grammarian. John, would you like to run through the grammarian role and also the word of the day?
Yeah, sure. So I'll be taking care of keeping track of everyone's ums and so's and filler words, so that we can kind of help to improve on those things, because those are things that distract the audience from the actual speech. I'll also be going over the word of the day, which today is topical. And I would also like to thank anyone that picked this word, because I also know what this means, which is great.
Ying has been picking the words.
Thank you, Ying. So topical means currently of interest, externally applied, or related to topics. So global warming is the more topical and popular whipping boy. Several potential solutions, including a topical antibiotic that would be applied up the nose. I wrote that topical comedy called The Philanderer. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that is great. I like to have a word of the day that I have some clue what it means. So with that, we'll bring up our first speaker. Luke Green is going to speak about Hurricane Irma.
All right, good evening fellow Toastmaster members and our guests. So tonight, I'm going to be giving a situation brief on the U.S. Virgin Islands Hurricane Irma and Maria response that I just returned from. So the picture you guys see on your screen here, this is a typical image that we are seeing down in the islands. This is the Culebra 2. It's a passenger ferry vessel. This vessel is actually sitting on top of another vessel called the Tug Vindicator, and this is located in Crown Bay on St. Thomas. So personnel we have down supporting the mission across all three islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. We have 49 Coast Guard members, 2 NOAA members, 1 U.S. Fish and Wildlife member, and 20 EPA members. So a quick breakdown of agency responsibilities. So for the Coast Guard, our primary responsibilities is to identify all sunk, derelict, and displaced vessels in the water of the state as a result of Hurricane Irma and Maria. We're also coordinating the mitigation and removal of threats to the environment with the vessel owners and DPNR. That stands for the Department of Planning and Natural Resources. For NOAA and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they develop and distribute BMPs, or the best management practices. This is basically operational guidelines for us out in the field. They also do coastal habitat protection plan and job aids. They also touch on identify removals in sensitive areas such as sand beaches, mangroves, seagrass for operational awareness and biological monitoring. For EPA and Westing, they assist us with data collection via response manager application, and this is something I will touch on in one of the later slides. They also provide an emergency response team for oil spills and other environmental emergencies. The Army Corps of Engineers supports DPNR and the mission by accepting marine debris in these territory-provided reduction sites. This also means staging areas or holding areas, and I'm going to touch on this in the next slide. So beginning with St. Thomas. So St. Thomas has 4 separate divisions. Divisions Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And you can see that's labeled at the top of the screen in green there. So to date, 222 vessels currently have been identified on St. Thomas as potential threats to the environment. So next, the reduction sites that I just spoke about, you have the staging areas and the holding area. What these are just specific locations where these vessels get salvaged and they get brought to this specific location to be staged, and then we figure out the disposition of that vessel. Is it going to get returned to the owner, or is it going to go to the scrap yard, or some of the other dispositions we have? So on St. Thomas, the staging areas, which are shoreside staging areas, is Crown Bay and Red Hook, and those are labeled in yellow up on the screen. The holding area is waterside, and that's Calpet Bay, which is labeled in red. Here is a picture of the staging area on Crown Bay. There's no vessels currently here right now, but you see it is next to the Culebra 2, and so vessels will be transported via the water to this area, craned onto the land, and this is where they're going to be staged, and then DPNR will affect the disposition. So St. Thomas vessel count by area. So the response manager application that I talked about, this is one of the layers that we can do in this system. There's a lot of different things that we can do. So you can see these purple boxes up here. So this tells us how many vessels lie within that purple box. So you can see the 3 high concentration vessels on St. Thomas. You have Compass Point at 76, Red Hook at 46, followed by Charlotte Emile Bay at 34. So field assessment targets. So there's a lot of colors up here and 2 different shapes. You got circles and triangles. So we'll start with the circles at the bottom. So a red circle means open. What that means to us is that vessel is a threat to the environment and a concern to us. If it's yellow, it means it's been verified. So that means we've gone out, reassessed this vessel, and it's still a priority to us. Orange means it's recovery in progress, blue is follow-up needed, and then green is closed. And that means this vessel has been salvaged, no longer a priority to the Coast Guard. So if you look up top, on top of every circle, you're going to have a triangle. So if it's a blue triangle, it means special consideration. Green is insurance company control. Purple is owner waive rights, and then the pink is owner is arranging for salvage. So currently on St. Thomas, we have 12 special considerations, 6 insurance company controls, 6 waive rights, and 13 owner salvage. So to illustrate this point a little better, this is a zoomed in shot of Compass Point on St. Thomas. So in the center of the screen here, I did label a vessel in blue. So you can see it's a green circle, so that means it's a closed vessel. So this vessel has been salvaged, and it was salvaged by the owner because we can see that it's got that pink triangle on there. So just by looking at the color and the shapes of both of those, we can tell that the owner salvaged this vessel. So moving on to St. John, so 100% of the St. John shoreline has been assessed. Total vessels identified by the Coast Guard on St. John currently is 157. The holding area, which is the waterside holding area for St. John, is going to be Great Cruise Bay, liquid in red. So the vessel count area for St. John, you can see that Coral Bay has 130 vessels. Right now we have Cruise Bay at 42, and then Great Cruise Bay at 30. So St. John field assessment, so currently there's 8 special considerations, 13 insurance company controls, 1 waive rights, and 8 owner salvage. So St. Croix's got 5 different divisions, and they're labeled in white on the screen. So starting at the top with Alpha, working clockwise over to Bravo, you can see we have Charlie, Delta, and Echo. So just like the other 3 islands, 100% of this shoreline has been assessed. 77 vessels have been identified on St. Croix. Christiansted in yellow is the staging area. Salt River Bay is the intermediate holding area. You can see that most of the vessels lie on the north side of the island on the vessel count by area here. So Salt River Bay has 41 vessels, and then Christiansted does have 25. So for field assessment targets, 24 special considerations, 2 insurance company controls, waive rights 13, and there's 5 owners who are salvaging their vessels. So here's, this is Long Reef on St. Croix. So you can see there's 4 vessels on the left side picture here that are along this reef that are causing damage to the reef and the coral here. So you have the Rogue, the sailing vessel Lark, the Footloose, and the Caribbean Blue. You guys can see that all those circles are orange because that's recovery in progress. The red line that you guys see up there, all that's showing is the direction of that salvage, and that's going to come into play on the next slide. So the Caribbean Blue on the right-hand side, that's just a picture to kind of show how that vessel is lying on the reef, and that's what the other ones look like too. So here's the picture of Long Reef that I wanted to show you guys. So you can see the keel of the vessel up here, and you can see this scarring or this valley that went right across the coral. So this is the stuff that we're trying to mitigate and correct. So we actually have NOAA coral specialists that are out there overseeing the salvage. And what they're doing is they're clearing those salvage lanes like that red arrow showed. Physically, like on the picture on the right, you have a NOAA diver that's cutting this coral, moving it to a safe place, making these salvage lanes. We remove the vessel, and then after that vessel's been removed, we take that coral and you put it back into place. So here's a picture of the intermediate holding area in Salt River Bay. The left one's just a general overview shot, so you guys can kind of get the overview big picture there. And then on the right-hand side, you have the close-in shot of the crane barge and the flexi barge. So what happens is the tug moves that barge, that crane barge around. They go pick vessels, set them on the crane barge. They come back to the flexi barge, which is the white one. If the vessels don't float on their own, they stack them on top of the barge. If they do float, they'll start mooring them around the outside edges of the barge. And then as those vessels have a disposition and given back to the owner to go into scrap, they start taking vessels away and new vessels come in. So here's just a couple pictures in Salt River Bay. So to date, 11 vessels have been salvaged here. On the left, you can see the motor vessel Absolute actively being picked by the crane. Motor vessel Lucky Penny here. This boat was partially sunk, but it was actually sunk on top of 3 other vessels. So this was just the first pick out of 3 that day that happened. So vessel count, this is across all 3 islands here, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Total vessels open to date is 419. Total vessels closed is 37. There's 53 special considerations, 24 insurance company controls, 20 wave rights, 36 owner salvage, and then there's 382 vessels that we do not have contact information on. So this is something that we're trying to remedy on a daily basis through advertisements, radio interviews, flyers, community meetings, and other ways to try to get this contact information out there so we can get these vessels out of the water. And with that, I'd like to turn it over for any questions or comments.
How did you all identify all of these wrecks?
You physically going out in teams. They're going out via land by vehicle. They're going out by small boat. They're going out in kayaks because some of these areas are really shallow. And so the only way to get to some of these areas was by kayak. So we were actually renting kayaks from a local marina there, and they would go out and physically tag these vessels. And when I say tag these vessels, they're stickers about this big. And when we put it on there, it's got a decal number. It gives you instructions on who to call, who to contact, and the time frame. So all the vessel owners would be on the same page, but it's all manpower. Okay, if there's no other questions, I will turn it back over to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. So, having grown up in Ocean Springs and not being in Ocean Springs for Katrina, but seeing the damage afterwards, my dad had a boat that sunk in Katrina. Always wondered how that worked and how all of that got cleaned up. I know that's got to be a huge job. That's a lot of boats to clean up. And also, if anybody's in the market for a low-cost boat, maybe catch up with Luke after. All right. Well, David was unable to make the meeting tonight, so let's move right into table topics, and Lawrence is going to run table topics for us.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. This evening, we're beginning to come into the holiday seasons. So I kind of decided that we would do a little bit about kind of holiday and holiday traditions and so on. Well, as many of you know, this is a time of year when many people have types of celebrations. Of course, you may know that the Jewish religion, well, actually, the two tribes left over from the sons of Abraham will celebrate Hanukkah at this time, or are in the process of celebrating Hanukkah at this time. You also may not know, but there are many other groups that celebrate at this time. Of course, in the old days, they used to celebrate like Yule time. They also, if you happen to be maybe a Seinfeldian, you might celebrate Festivus. If you were a pagan, you might be celebrating the solstice. And of course, if you're American, you're celebrating capitalism with a little sprinkling of Christianity. So, this evening, I'd like to be in a holiday spirit. And is there anyone who would like to speak first in table topics? Or do I just randomly pick?
I'll speak. I'll go first.
Okay, great. All right, so there are many celebrations. How do you feel is the best way for you to celebrate this festive season?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. My family, I was raised very much Christian, but I am a huge Seinfeld fan. I think Jerry Seinfeld's one of the most funny guys in the world. And so, as part of our holiday traditions that we celebrate, it's very quiet and calm at our house. except we do enjoy some of the Festivus traditions of like the airing of grievances. I think that's our my personal favorite one, because they seem to have the most about me, and I just think they're all hilarious. So my wife and my son, who's only 6, start airing their grievances against their dad. I think that's really hilarious. And so I enjoy that one. But my personal favorite is the quiet date night at home where we finally get around to decorating the tree. I know that last year it took us almost till Christmas to finally decorate. The year before that, we actually couldn't get our tree up because our tree did not come from the movers until Christmas Eve. And we were leaving the day after Christmas to be gone. So I really enjoy that night because it's a night of just reliving all the memories of every ornament, because our ornaments come from my grandparents, her grandparents. There are things for our children, and they all are attached to either a year of our life or a moment in our life. And so it's just like a chance for my wife and I to relive and tell our kids the stories of who we are. And so that's probably my favorite, and the one that I attribute most to this season is the happy moment. Mr. Toastmaster.
Again, our holiday traditions can be very different. There is a famous tradition that many people even sing about, and that is the days of Christmas. And these can come under different names: the days of Advent, the 12 days of Christmas, and so on. But each day, they have a different thing. So if you remember in the 12 days of Christmas, on the 12th day, you got so many presents, it would be burying you under presents. So if you had an opportunity to receive once again your favorite present from the time you were born until the current moment, what do you think it would be? Who would like to speak about that? Good chance. Maurice, would you like to speak about it?
Well, at least I'll get it knocked out.
Get out while it's easy.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, what would be my favorite gift from the time I was born until now that I haven't received or Well, one thing that I have not received throughout my life is an exotic car. I'm not 100% sure I would want a real exotic car. I mean, they're fun, you know, they're fast and they handle well, but on the other side of it, maintenance costs, insurance costs, parts costs, and traffic ticket costs, like Lauren said, and then a lot of them are relatively unreliable in comparison to the everyday family car. So I wouldn't necessarily go with the Ferrari, maybe a low-end Porsche, a BMW. But anyway, I guess a more exotic car than I have now would probably be the gift that I would desire. Topic master.
Very good, very good. I think if I ever went for an exotic car, the exotic car that I would want would be a 60s or maybe a 60s model Carmen Ghia. Very reliable, very nice little car. Anyways, back to the festivities. Most of the festivities that we have come from a long line of tradition. But somebody had to start those traditions. My next speaker is going to be topical on how would they create, or what would they create as a new tradition in the holiday spirit if they had the opportunity? Ah, there you go.
Hello, Toastmasters, honored guests. This is an easy one for me because I actually did create a new tradition with my young daughter. If you don't know, I'm a single dad. I got a 3-year-old little girl. It's fun. We started a new tradition this year. My mother and I always laid out cookies for Santa, but she's a mom and she's good at making cookies for Santa. So in order not to mess this up on Christmas Eve, Amy and I decided we would make the tradition of practicing making cookies for Santa. This sounds good in theory until I woke up the next morning and she had eaten all the cookies in the middle of the night because I left them in the little jar in there. So our new tradition is to practice making cookies for Santa so we get it just right so then I get to eat them Christmas Eve. And so there we go. That's our new tradition that we've created. Thank you, Topical.
Life is always good, and there's so many wonderful things that happen in life, and Christmas time, the holiday spirit, that is always something that is very good. But in different cultures, they have different ideas of types of festivities. So I would like to ask Ms. Ewing if she would like to come up and say what is her favorite type of celebration from her homeland in China.
In China, we have no this holiday in China, but the young people now celebrate the Christmas. Even they don't know the significance, the meaning, but they celebrate. All the people, young people, come to the is going to shopping actually. So businessmen hold this opportunity to sell their stuff. But for me, I like here celebrate Christmas in United States, not in China, because it's totally different thing. They thought there's they don't know who is Jesus, most of them, and they don't know why we celebrate this. So we like here, and actually I would like in Chinese church, we have a big party. We hold sometimes like 80 or 100 people get together, and then we have a performance program. I am the producer and kind of like a director. So that's my favorite because we already have the coming Saturday, we are celebrating the Christmas, and we have wonderful programs. So welcome to join us if you want contact with me. Thank you.
Yeah,
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
6 minutes? Oh, we got more, we got more.
We need to, like,
There's more at the door, there's more. Now, one of the wonderful things about Christmas are all the many, many stories that have been told about the Christmas spirit, the Christmas ghosts, and the great Saint Nicholas who wandered around and put gold nuggets in people's socks that were hanging by the fireplace to dry overnight. And many things that have come up as legends about Christmas. I'm wondering if anyone has an unusual legend that they remember about Christmas.
Good evening, Toastmasters, and anyone else, I guess, besides me. I had the very fortunate circumstance where I was in my last year of school and I was able to go on a spring break trip. And this spring break trip was to Iceland, of all places, actually. And it was honestly fantastic. Does not do the trip justice. It had all sorts of black sand beaches and volcanoes, the craziest landscape of all. There were just glaciers melting absolutely everywhere. It was really cool. But it was also great because I went with a bunch of other students and we had these great tour guides that really gave us a feel for the culture. And on some of our long bus rides, they gave us a few of the Icelandic legends that I like to talk about. And they don't have Santa Claus or I guess Kris Kringle. They've got this character called Krampus, I believe. And Krampus, instead of going down chimneys and laying presents under trees, the legend is at one time, maybe, I don't know if this is the Middle Ages, but he broke into people's houses through the front door and just stole their children. And this is what all the parents in Iceland tell their children when they're growing up. And to me, this is just the most terrifying thing in the world. But anyway, this Krampus, this creature, I guess it's something like the Grinch, was a way to scare children into being good, which is a little bit different than the naughty and nice list that we're used to. But it's one of my favorite Christmas legends, and if I'm ever lucky enough to have children, I think I might adopt Krampus myself. So thank you.
Yes, Krampus. If you're not good, he's gonna come and take you away. And who knows what he does when he takes you away. 3 minutes. We have room for one more. This is also a time that many people celebrate, as I said. One of the pagan rituals is it's kind of pagan, I guess. If you're a Christian, anyhow, it's pagan. But they believe that the god of winter and the god of summer are always arguing with each other. And that on the longest or the shortest day of the year is when the god of summer finally overthrows the god of winter and starts gradually taking back the day, making them longer and warmer and so on. So something like that. So is there any way that you like to celebrate the shortest day of the year? Maybe sticking your eggs on upside down or something? Anyone have a celebration they use for the 21st of December when we have the shortest day of the year? Perchance. Anybody? Going once, going twice. How about Cody? Why don't you?
Well, I never really thought about the shortest day of the year as a time to celebrate anything or do anything unusual. But now that I think of it, I'd probably try to get as much outdoor activity done as possible. Enjoy the sunlight while I can. Winter's sometimes a little dark and depressing, and maybe I can start a new tradition for my December 21st and maybe take a day off work, call in sick or something, and spend it outside, getting a little sunlight. Unless it's raining or snowing here in Alabama now, then maybe I'll just stay inside and stay warm. Thank you for talking.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our table topics for this evening. I hope that all of you can have a little bit of thought about the beauty and wonder of this time of year. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lawrence. Those are some very topical topics concerning the holiday. So we'll move on to the general evaluation portion of the meeting, and that's going to be led by Thomas. Thanks, Thomas.
So I'd just like to say, I think everything tonight has been pretty actually topical, because Luke's speech is something that literally they're still recovering from. I work for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, so I have fellow cohorts from my work that are down in various U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico assisting in the mission down there. So I actually found it interesting to hear from the other side. Our first evaluator this evening is Cody Broussard. He'll be evaluating Luke's technical presentation.
Okay, so Luke has completed his Competent Communicators, moved into the Technical Presentations book. And he did number 3, and this one was geared towards an audience that doesn't have the technical background that Luke has, so he needed to communicate a very technical topic to a non-technical audience. So the first thing that he's evaluated on is topic selection. So I thought it was an interesting topic. All of us were aware of these hurricanes that came through. We saw them on the news. We were crossing our fingers they didn't hit us, and luckily it didn't. So the topic's very relevant to everyone in the room, and it's interesting to us to kind of see what the outcome of these hurricanes were in other parts of the world. The next area is absence of complexity. I thought he did well this as well. Didn't use too many complex lingo. I know it's, especially in aerospace myself, I can get into acronyms and all these technical terminology, but he did a good job at not diving down that. And he had a few acronyms, but he defined them at one point in the presentation, which is good. Gives the audience the ability to actually know what they are. I like the opening image showed, flipped over boat, showed kind of the destruction of what you're about to get into. Maybe you could open up with, some numbers, like this is how much damage that was done on the island, how many boats that were capsized. But all in all, like the opening of the presentation. Organization kind of had a big overview picture and drilled down, which was good. We started out with the maps and showed the different areas and how to read the maps, and then got into more of like what you actually did on a technical basis, which was good. Transitions, yeah, the transitions were well. You were very calm and had control of the presentation. I didn't think you had any problem transitioning in between slides. Like I said earlier, this one's language was a simple, non-use of complicated jargon. I agreed. He avoided going into technical terminology, and you were easy to understand. Response to the audience, you had one question from Justin. You answered it well. No one threw you off guard. You were able to respond to the audience, which was good. Visual aids, I thought some of the text was a little small, at least from my seat on the legends. So maybe if you were doing this with a bigger screen, it would have been, well, so maybe a little less text, or maybe break those up into 2 slides maybe, so you can maximize the text size. Delivery, you're very cool, calm and collected, went through it well, seemed confident up there. I thought the pace was really good for a technical presentation, so great job on that. So suggestions for improvement, like I was just talking about on the visual aids, a little less text or enlarge the text. And what I liked overall, I liked the overall map in the beginning of the presentation to kind of give me a big picture of what area you're working on and how much damage there was. And it was an interesting topic, and your delivery was very good for a technical presentation. I really liked the flow and the pace and the confidence you had. And just starting with that big picture and kind of drilling down into the more technical detail. So all in all, it was a great speech, Luke. Thank you. Mr. Chairman Bagley.
We'll now go to the slightly more relaxed, they don't have to get up here, evaluation portions, with the timers report presented by the UEA.
Chairman report. I came late, so I think there's a meeting start on time.
Try to.
For the speaker, Luke is 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Good
Good job.
His speech is from 10 to 12. The table topic Thomas is 1 minute 35 seconds. Maurice is 1 minute 16 seconds. Right?
Ren.
Ren. Sorry. 47 seconds. Me is 1 minute 51 seconds. Mike is 1 minute 50 seconds. Cody is the 39 seconds. For the evaluator, Cody is 3 minutes 38 seconds.
And the grammarian report by John York.
So, first speech by Luke, he had 20 ums and 8 so's. Other than that, I didn't have any really grammatical mistakes or anything like that. You're very well spoken. Just some of those ums as you're moving from point to point. Other than that, I thought it was a great speech. Topic master, Lawrence had a kind of and a like and an topic number 1 by Thomas, I didn't find any mistakes in your speech at all. I didn't have any filler words or anything like that. Topic 2 was by Maurice. I had 2 so's. Other than that, no grammatical errors. Topic 3 was by Yi. I had an and a so. Topic 4 was by Mike. I had 4 ums. Other than that, no grammatical errors. Topic 5 by Cody. I didn't have any grammatical errors in that one. As far as word of the day, Lawrence used it, I believe, twice, if I'm not mistaken. Thomas used it once, and also, who is somebody else? Justin used it, and Justin used it also. Yes. Other than that, good job, everyone.
Okay, for the general evaluation meeting, we gavelled in on time, but the meeting didn't get started probably for another minute after that. So we'll work on that next time, gaveling a little bit harder to make sure everybody hears it. I thought Cody's evaluation of Luke's speech, went a little bit long, but trying to evaluate 10 minutes of a lot of visual as well as body language and everything in 3 minutes, I think getting it down below 4 was really awesome. So I think that was a very good thing that our evaluator did, being able to actually give good feedback in a timely fashion, considering how much he was evaluating. Other than that, I have no other notes for our general evaluations, so I turn our time to
Thanks to the rest of the evaluators. So we'll move on to the education overview. Thomas, do you have a presentation for us? That's great. All right. Come on up, Thomas. For this meeting.
This is what happens when you skip a week. You volunteered for everything, especially when you skip a week with the note in your email, it's okay if you volunteer me for something. So today, I'll make sure to tell you the right month. November issue of Toastmasters. It's the magazine we all get. Has a nice, fun article about saying it with flair. So it's not just about giving a speech that doesn't have filler words. It's not just about giving a speech that flows well and is organized well. It's about doing it in a way that's going to make people remember. One of the speeches that everybody worldwide remembers is Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. But part of the reason they remember it is because he uses a thing called an anaphora. An anaphora is where you say the same thing to begin every paragraph over and over. He said, I have a dream, to start 6 paragraphs in that speech. So that's one way we can add some flair, to just repeat these things again, and then again, and then again. See right there actually is an anaphora. Another thing that really helps people is using alliteration and rhyme. For those of you who don't know what alliteration is using the same starting sound for a series of words together. the literal best one I'd ever heard is the one given in the article, given by former U.S. Vice President Spiro Agnew, where he said, "Nattering nabobs of negativism." You just all of a sudden see it in your mind because of the alliteration. It brings it a little bit less auditory and into your actual head. Rhyming, that's the, you know, I'm trying to make sure I get this right for the rhyme. That's gonna, O.J. Simpson's lawyer, when he was on trial, "If the glove don't fit, you must acquit." He said that, I think, every single day, 3 or 4 times. But because of the rhyming, it got into the jurors' heads. In fact, jurors who have since been interviewed, part of the reason why they acquitted O.J. Simpson was because this rhyme that had just been more or less put into their head where they just believed it by the end. Whether it was the truth or not, they believed it because of the rhyme, just made it part of their psyche at the time of it. Another example of alliteration that we all grew up with is reading, writing, and arithmetic. Arithmetic being, we always say the A very silent so that we can get the alliteration, but it helps for memory. The other thing that I took out of this article that's really one of the best, possibly the total best way to help people remember is hyperbole. Hyperbole is extreme exaggeration. The guy who caught the fish that's this big, everybody remembers the story. But the guy who actually caught the fish this big, no one remembers. No one caught this fish. Everybody caught this fish. But everybody remembers this story. And so hyperbole is another way to say your same topic, whatever you're talking about, with some flair that's going to make it drive home and stay there. So that people remember it next week and the next week. And when they're having drinks with their friends, they remember this random thing from something they heard at some meeting because it just stuck with them. There are other ones that they point out in this article. I encourage you, for those of you who have a printed version, feel free to pick it up and read it. You can also get access to it online. The article's name is Say It With Flair, and it just gives some really fun techniques to bring your speech from that normal, what we hear a lot of people give on our everyday life, to that very memorable moment. It lets people bring it home with them afterwards. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, good job, Thomas. Especially for short notice like that. That was very well delivered. Do we have any awards for this evening?
Not that I know.
Well, then I'll hand the meeting back over to the president to wrap up our meeting.
This is why I didn't sit down. So, as I said, we have no awards this evening. I do know that Rin, I think, has made it to the halfway point. Is this, I think he's given 4, almost 4th or 5th speech you've given now.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're halfway to another competent communicator in the club. So keep up the good work. And for those of you who are just getting started, remember you can always volunteer. And in fact, that's the point of the meeting we're to. The time where we make sure that our agenda for next week is filled out in every way. I do know that no one has volunteered online. I checked right before coming to
I'm the last speech.
so meeting, you can lead that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You want,
You know speech too.
you,
Sorry, my voice.
you, okay. Yeah, who wants to be Toastmaster? Toastmaster.
I'll be Toastmaster.
General evaluator.
I'll do general evaluator.
Want to be evaluated? To evaluate.
I'll evaluate a speech.
Which one?
Either
The other
one.
one, okay. Another one,
I can do that also.
okay.
I'll do table topic.
Okay.
Timer.
So, timer, one, be timer.
And grammarian.
Me? Again? Okay. Come on then.
Her favorite.
Grammar.
I'll be grammarian.
Oh. Education. Oh, wait. Okay, okay.
I'm always excited when someone volunteers for educational overview.
Do I get to talk about what I want to talk about?
You can, as long as it's dealing with communication and leadership, we encourage for those to be like overall, or something truly just like a few of them have been all about like easy speed or things of that nature. We try to keep them kind of to communicating
Right.
and
Keep them
leadership. Yeah, keep them topical to Toastmasters, as Justin just said there. Next week, just for everybody's information, we will be voting on whether we will be holding meetings on Christmas Day
Yep.
and New Year's Day.
So we forget.
So look at your
I was already
schedules.
gonna make a move to, I was gonna do that when you.
Look at your schedules. I don't want to like just pop it on you, because if enough people want to have a meeting, we will try to find a way. But look at your schedules to see if you would like to and are available to come to a Toastmasters meeting on Christmas or New Year's. And next week we will be voting on whether we are doing those. Okay? Currently in our Toastmasters Easy Speak, there are no meetings set up for those. We're set up for next week and then on the 8th. Okay? Unless there's something that someone would like to bring forward, our meeting's adjourned.
Right.